Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The Department of Justice said former lawmaker Zaldico is no longer in the custody of the Czech Republic.
Sandigan Bayan has issued a precautionary hold departure order against Senator Cheese Escudero.
Oil companies have implemented another round of rollbacks in the prices of fuel products.
The MPTC Tour of Luzon 2026 is set to kick off tomorrow, marking the start of another edition of the country's premier cycling event.
First in the news, it's another twisted turn in the Zaldico case as the Justice Department confirms he is no longer in Czech custody. Here's the report.
I have to share difficult news, mga kababayan. Czech authorities have informed us that Mr. Zaldico is no longer in their custody.
Justice Secretary Frederick Vida made the announcement during a press briefing after meeting with Czech government officials. For now, fugitive and former Congressman Zaldico remains at large.
The exact information, he is no longer within the territory of the Czech Republic. He is not detained.
Czech authorities provided limited details on why Ko was released and when he left the country. Vida said that when he arrived in the Czech Republic on Friday, he believed the former lawmaker was still in custody.
For that reason, they reiterated that he is no longer within the territory of the Czech Republic. We also asked that when they did release, they said they can no longer furnish additional information.
Ko is believed to still be somewhere in Europe, though his exact location remains unknown. The former lawmaker reportedly traveling by land, allowing him to move within the Schengen area, even without using a passport. Authorities have obtained the registration details of the vehicle used by Ko, as well as information about his driver. But Vida declined to disclose where the vehicle is registered or the driver's identity. Philippine embassies in countries with land borders near the Czech Republic have been alerted as possible exit points. Vida admitted confusion over how Czech authorities handled Ko's case.
Disappointed for lack of further knowledge. They express that they do understand the gravity, the concern of the Filipino public. I'm confused at the legal parameters where this is coming from.
The Department of Justice is now hoping an Interpol red notice against Ko will be issued. However, even if approved, a red notice does not oblige other countries to enforce it.
Anong possible? Hindi naman ho natin pwedeng papuntahin ng pulis natin doon. Diba? At manghuli, magdampot. Hindi naman ho yung kinikilala na alternative. Diba? Ang ano dito is that's why we explore for other bilateral or multilateral agreements and we invoke particular provisions in the matter.
Despite the latest development, he maintained that President Bongbong Marcos' announcement was not premature. Vida is scheduled to return to the country on April 30.
The Sandigan Bayan 6th Division has issued a precautionary hold departure order against Senator Cheese Escudero and businessman Maynard Wu. This comes after the Office of the Ombudsman sought a travel ban amid its ongoing probe into their alleged link to the flood control scandal. The order effectively bars them from leaving the country. Meanwhile, in an interview with Storycon, Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla said the Philippine National Police is on full alert to monitor their movements.
Last Thursday, I had a command conference with all the regional directors, the general directorate of all the generals, all the provincial directors of the entire PNP, all 50 plus airports in the country, Region 9, backdoor leading to Malaysia, all coastline, maritime, all CAAP, all ABSICOM are on full alert for the possible departure of the former speaker and the former speaker of and the former Senate president. Because of the orders given by the ombudsman, we will do everything possible to prevent their departure from the country. So that time, in short, the entire PNP is in alert.
To help us make sense of these developments, we are now joined by Integrated Bar of the Philippines President Attorney Alan Panolong. Good morning and thank you for joining us, Attorney.
Attorney, can you hear us okay? All right, so we will try to
Fix the line, yeah,
fix the line for Attorney Panolong so that we
Panolong
can
of,
make sense of what's happening,
By the
diba?
Attorney Panolong is the President of the IBP and
Yes.
make sense of this weird Zaldico...
Nahuli ba or arrested?
Weird,
Yan ang mga...
weird set of
terms.
circumstances.
Oo.
Kasi even if the government came out and they did not really say naman arrested, but the definition of the word detain, hold, di ba, medyo magulo eh. So
Yes.
we want the insights of Attorney Panolong if he's now... Attorney, are you with us now?
Oh yeah, good morning po, Diego and Angelo. Thank you for inviting me for your
Of course.
program today.
All right, Attorney, thank you. No, I'm sure you've been monitoring this Zaldico saga, no? So ano pang natitirang options now that he is no longer in custody of the Czech Republic for the Philippines authorities to probably, hopefully get a hold of Zaldico?
As I've been mentioning in my previous interviews, I think the Philippine government has still to pursue its red Interpol notice, no? Because it's one way of fast-tracking actually the return of Zaldico. So with the red Interpol notice, no, the Czech Republic or any country for that matter will be through their law enforcement agency. So pwede po nilang i-locate yung location ni Zaldico and it can be processed in return po niya sa ating bansa.
Pero kasi ang dami po mga lumalabas na usapin tungkol dun talaga sa estado ni former Congressman Zaldico, no, doon sa ibang bansa. We all know the Philippine passport is already canceled. He's not, I don't know if he's using that pa, pero sinasabi nila may Portuguese passport or may golden visa. What do you think kaya yung ginagamit niya ngayon na he can move freely in other countries, Attorney?
Cannot really answer that categorically, no? Because for one, we are not communicating with Zaldico.
Yeah. But what do you think kaya? Ano kaya?
Yes, I think Zaldico may be able to have other passports other than the Philippine passport. Kasi within the European Union naman is you cannot freely move kung wala kang if you're not in possession of a valid passport. However, I understand for those landlocked areas, for instance, if you're traveling from say Switzerland to Italy, para pong hindi ka nadadaan ata ng immigration area pag land ka. So there is no need to check on the passport that he is holding. So he may be able to freely move within the area, except if he will board an airplane, because with that he will be asked to present his passport.
Exactly.
Pero
That's right.
kung by land lang po, kasi I have a personal experience, ma'am. I traveled from Czech Republic actually. No, I was able to visit Prague, and we went to Germany, which is very close to it, and we rode a private vehicle, in fact, and we were never stopped in the border. So we were never required. Hindi po kami tinanong eh. Wala, through and through lang po na nakapasok kami. So with that, Zaldico really can freely move around within that area.
So what happened?
Except lang po talaga if, tingin ko, if he will travel through airplane or by plane.
So what
Doon lang
happened kay Attorney, kay Zaldico na supposedly na stop siya inside a vehicle? Was this a random checkpoint na natsambahan lang si Zaldico? And ano talaga nangyari? Was it detention? Was he held for a while to check his papers? Kasi pinakawalan din eh.
It could be po, no? Kasi as I said, the reports kasi are very
vague. They're vague.
Very limited
Yeah.
yung informations being divulged to the public. But I remember also when we traveled from Czech Republic going to Germany, we were informed na just in case you bring your passport and visa, baka mamaya ma-flag down tayo sa highways, no? So it could be that he might be probably their vehicle was probably flagged down, and at saka sir, meron kasing mga allegations na although this is unverified, that Saldico is actually in possession of other passports,
Oo nga
other than
daw
the
eh.
Philippine passport. So if it's a passport from a European country, so he can freely move around, except if he wants to go to UK because it would require visa kasi hindi nakasama ang
Yeah.
UK
Schengen,
sa...
oo.
Yeah, oo.
So
But if he is in possession of a passport, especially from a European country or belonging to that European Union, so he can freely move around.
that's right.
There is no restraint on that.
So, ibig sabihin, attorney, if he's in possession of a European passport, that means legally obtained yon, at kahit canceled pa yung Philippine passport niya, there's no chance of deportation unless may ginawa siyang mali.
Yes, because that would be a domestic. We would apply the domestic law of that country that issued the passport. Ganun po yun. So
Kahit
we don't have any jurisdiction on that matter. We cannot.
Kahit attorney, medyo malaki yung supposed crime niya na he's charged with dito sa bansa, hindi pwede i-cite yun?
Yun nga po yung napag-usapan natin. No? The government really should
Red notice.
explore yung diplomatic ties with the country where Saldico is allegedly present. So we can explore that. There is this United Nations
Yes,
Convention
Convention
Against
against-
Corruption. So pwede po yun. So I believe many of the European countries are part of that. And if a person, no, like allegedly, like Saldico, who is facing a lot of cases for corruption, no, for corruption here in our country, pwede po nilang makuha ang cooperation ng any European country na kung saan nandoon si Saldico. So if they're signatory, they are obliged by that because that is a lawful agreement between the countries.
So okay lang po
One member
doon.
to that, yeah.
Opo, okay lang po doon sa avenue na yon, yung United Nations Convention Against Corruption, kahit po wala tayong extradition treaty with Czech Republic.
Yes. Kahit wala pong extradition treaty, okay po yun.
Pero
Because they are part of that eh.
Opo. Pero yung iba naman po nagtatanong sila, of course, what if mag-file ng asylum? 'Di ba? Si asylum, ang tawag po nun, mag-asylum seeker siya. Is that even
Yes.
possible? Kasi sabi nila, hindi naman siya politically persecuted here in the Philippines. His charges here are criminal.
So unang-una po we have to distinguish because a person applying for political asylum is actually facing persecution from his or her host country.
Yes.
So in this case, Saldico is not facing persecution, but he is facing prosecution.
Prosecution.
He's actually trying to evade being prosecuted for alleged corruption cases that he was a principal author of which.
Right.
So he cannot trace that. If ever he applies for that, there is a greater probability that it may even be denied. So he cannot make use of that. But, anything may happen.
Pero syempre yung mga tao medyo parang na-disappoint because a week ago the government has been telling the public na nahuli na. Tapos yung ibang yung site nila sinabi arrested, and then now dinidifferentiate nila yung pagkakasabi nila tungkol sa nahuli versus arrested. Your thoughts on that? Ano ba talaga, attorney? Tama ba yun na they needed to differentiate these two words?
To be candid and to be frank, I think the announcement was very premature.
Yes.
So if you notice, the information's given, kulang-kulang we don't even know. And then there was even an information, in fact, that we read over the several news outlets saying that he was not actually arrested. So meaning to say, may confusion eh. Ano ba talaga nangyari? Na-detain ba siya? Nahuli ba siya? And for what reason?
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to answer that because we can distinguish that based on the act for which he or she was caught or apprehended. Oo, kasi kung halimbawa nahuli siya in violation of a penal statute of the foreign country, so the term should be arrested.
Yes.
But he was only detained for some clarificatory questioning, maybe to ascertain the veracity of his identity. So I think it was a purely detention. Baka tingin ko parang ganun lang siguro yun, ma'am, dahil maybe siguro alam naman po sa mundo na he is facing charges here in our country. So baka pag mabasa yung pangalan niya, so why are you in possession of this probably passport? So baka ganun ang nangyari po.
So,
na-flag down lang.
so
In that case, yes, in that case, it was a purely temporary detention or deprivation of his liberty. But it does not amount to an arrest. So magkaiba po yun eh.
So in other words, attorney,
Totoo.
ang pwede nangyari, na flag down siya for a checkpoint possibly sa border, tapos nakita na temporarily yung baka mali ang dala ng passport, tapos chinek na lang yung kahit makita nila, attorney, na hinahanap ng Philippine country at hindi pwedeng i-hold si Saldico kasi walang red notice, ganun ba yon?
At saka sir, because yung case naman ni Zaldico is a domestic problem in our country. So pag in the absence of a proper coordination with the law enforcement agency of a foreign country as well as even the judicial yung judiciary nila, no? Kasi kailangan may coordination. And they have nothing to they have no reason to detain further. So ganun po 'yun eh. So maingat din sila kasi alam niyo po ang European countries are these are mature countries.
Yes.
Yung observance yung rights of every individual, especially on the right to travel, yung freedom, among other things, very essential yan sa kanila eh. So hindi ho siya ganun kadali.
Yes, so
Na
So, masalimuot pala to, no?
Hearsay information. Yes, sir.
oo.
Medyo masalimuot nga po. And actually, this is acknowledged by the Philippine government. And I think they have to, for me, as a lawyer, they have to pursue with the Interpol. No?
So
Pero ang
And
tagal
explore
pa.
further diplomatic avenues.
well, ang last question ko, attorney, you mentioned Interpol. We also talked about the UN kanina. What would be the most prudent, fastest, or most effective way to bringing Saldico home? Kasi medyo yung cases niya dito, 2 more years, patapos na yung itong admin. So as much as possible, we want Saldico here as na mabilisan.
For me, sir, no, kasi those things that I mentioned, number one, yung sa Interpol, at saka sa United Nations Conventions Against Corruption. And dapat parallel, they have also to explore entering into an extradition treaty. So while waiting for those options, na while working, no, meron din tayong pending extradition treaty. So that we acknowledge that these processes will really take longer. So kumbaga, the government should explore as many options as possible just to make sure that Saldico will be brought back to our country for him to answer the alleged cases against him.
Right.
So, ganun po yun, no?
Kasi ang natin, we applied daw po for red notice, particularly in this case of Zaldico, last November pa. So that's how many months already. Medyo matagal-tagal na. Alright, maraming salamat po as always sa inyong oras and of course sa inyong insights. Integrated Bar of the Philippines President Attorney Alan Panolong. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Thank you, Ma'am Angelo and Sir Diego.
Thank
Mabuhay
you.
po tayong lahat.
Alright, in other news, the husband of Vice President Sara Duterte has filed complaints over the disclosure of his private bank records during a House impeachment hearing. Now, here's the report.
The husband of Vice President Sara Duterte, Attorney Man Scarpio, has filed complaints against several government officials, including members of the House Committee on Justice. The cases stem from the disclosure of Carpio's private financial records during last week's clarificatory hearing. The complaints were filed before the Quezon City Prosecutor's Office and cite alleged violations of the Anti-Money Laundering Act, the Bank Secrecy Law, and the Data Privacy Act. Named as respondents are Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona, Anti-Money Laundering Council Executive Director Ronel Ventura, and House Justice Committee Chair Jervil Luistro. Also included are Representatives Percy Sandana, Chel Jokno, and Laila de Lima. The lawmakers, for their part, maintained they did not violate any law during the impeachment hearing.
Kampante po tayo na hindi yan magpo-prosper dahil wala naman po kaming linalabag na batas. Panglihis lang ito, pandagdag lang ito sa mga kaso na mga final na nila sa Supreme Court.
Ang tawag ko sa kaso na to, MEMA. MEMA siya kasi nga nadiin na sila ng ebidensya. May masabi lang, may exemption talaga pagdating sa impeachment cases sa coverage ng Bank Secrecy Law.
Ang binigay sa amin na kapangyarihan ay mismo galing sa ating konstitusyon na mag-conduct ng hearing at mismo sa rules ng House ay meron tayong power to compel production of documents and witnesses.
During last week's proceedings, the AMLC disclosed that some 6.7 billion pesos in large and suspicious transactions passed through the bank accounts of Duterte and Carpio from 2006 to 2025. The amount was said to be far higher than the assets declared in Duterte's statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SALN. Meanwhile, speaking to the VIG story, Carpio's legal counsel, attorney Peter Paul Danao, said the records allegedly linked to Carpio should not have been made public, since he is not a party to the impeachment proceedings. He added that the alleged transaction must be verified, stressing that Carpio strongly denies claims that he has billions of pesos in his accounts.
AMLC is not a banking institution. Okay? It is a council that investigates money laundering offenses. That is why there is a different law, a more recent law, because 1405 is a 1955 law. And this RA 11521, amending 9160, is a recent law in 2021. So precisely, this recent law governs the transactions or information gathered by AMLC. So it is our opinion, and I think the law itself is clear, that the AMLC is prohibited, absolutely prohibited from and that has a purpose, to stabilize confidential information to secure banking industry.
Let's now talk to Manila 3rd District Representative Joel Chua. Welcome to News and Views. Magandang umaga po sa inyo again, Representative.
Ay, magandang umaga at sa lahat po ng inyong taga-subaybay.
Attorney, I assume na panood niyo po at napakinggan niyo po yung sinasabi ng lawyer ng asawa po ni VP Sara. Ano po ang reaksyon niyo doon sa kanilang reklamo?
Alam po ninyo, kung babasahin po ninyo yung AMLAC law, ay hindi mo dapat basahin yan doon lamang sa isang provision. Dapat babasahin mo yan sa kabuuan. Yung AMLAC law po, tinatagpo yan para protektahan ang banking system para magamit ito sa mga masama o illegal na activities. At kung titingnan po ninyo, yung nasabing batas, meron po doon definition ng mga illegal activities. Kasama po dito yung plunder, yung anti-graft. At dito po sa AMLAC law, nakalagay din po dito na ang mga government institution dapat makapag-coordinate dito. Bukod po dito, nakalagay din dito na yung mga government employees na hindi tutulong o hindi makikipag-cooperate ay po pwede pong makasuhan. Kaya wala pong, hindi po totoo yung kanyang sinasabi. Tsaka unang-una po, yung dito na lang, kinasuhan po niya mga miyembro ng Kongreso, abogado po sila. Alam po nila na may immunity ang mga members ng Congress habang ito'y nasa committee hearing at tsaka habang ito'y gumagawa ng kanilang trabaho sa plenaryo. Kaya wala pong ka-basis-basis yung kanila pong reklamo.
Yung isa pang accusation, Kong, sabi ni Carpio daw, yung leak was used for black propaganda and harassment sa political harassment. Among other things, kasi alam naman natin na si VP Sara a few months ago showed her intent to run for the highest office in the land.
Alam po ninyo, Hindi po hindi po nila ang totoong issue po diyan ay hindi po nila sinasagot at iniiwan lamang po nila. Ang issue po kasi diyan, yung inilabas po na 6.7 billion na inflows and outflows, hanggang ngayon hindi po nila sinasagot to at kung ano-ano mga diversionary tactic lamang ang kanilang mga sinasabi keso sila ay namumuli. Ito po namang impeachment last sa Congress pa po to, kung maalala po ninyo no 19 Congress nakasuhan na po sila. Unfortunately, yung Supreme Court lamang ay nagdesisyon po dito via technicality, sheer technicality ang niyari nila. Pero with respect dun sa substance, wala naman sinasabi ang Supreme Court na wala naman silang ginawang mali. Ngayon po, lumalabas na yung mga ebidensya dahil sunod na po natin lahat ng gusto ng Supreme Court. Kaya wala po akong nakikita na political harassment lamang to. Dahil nung 19 Congress, hindi pa po siya kandidato, wala pa pong midterm election, ay nasimula na po ang impeachment. At saka hindi po mga politiko, hindi po mga congressman ang nag-file ng impeachment sa kanya. Ng mga nag-file po dito, mga religious sector, tsaka mga civil society. Kami po bilang mga miyembro ng justice, ang trabaho lamang po namin dito ay tugunan ang aming constitutional mandate.
Congressman Joel, I was able to talk to Attorney Danao yesterday and he said regarding this complaint nga daw po na he can only talk about Mr. Carpio's complaints. Sinasabi niya kasi he's a private individual and the impeachment proceeding that was allowed to open his bank accounts is not constitutional dahil siya ay isang pribadong tao lamang.
Alam po ninyo, hindi po pwedeng i-separate si Attorney Carpio sa kanyang asawa dahil ito pong pinag-uusapan dito ay ill-gotten wealth ni Vice President Sara Duterte. At maliwanag naman, bilang kanyang asawa, part po yan ng kanyang ari-arian dahil ito po ay conjugal property nilang mag-asawa. Unless ma-prove eventually na meron po silang prenuptial agreement. Pero kung wala po, ito po ay parte ng kanilang ari-arian. Dapat po ito nakadeklara sa salin at dapat po maipaliwanag po nila kung paano po nila ito na-acquire.
Mabilisan lang nga po kasi I remember prior to the proceeding ng House Justice Committee na ma-open yung salin at saka yung mga bank accounts ni VP Sara, nag-file po ng TRO if I'm not mistaken yung asawa po niya, no? And until now wala pa naman pong ruling yung Supreme Court regarding that. If ever po biglang maglabas ang Supreme Court ng ruling regarding that complaint, that TRO, ano po mangyayari doon sa naging proceeding na nangyari ng House Justice Committee?
Ako tingin ko hindi na maglalabas kasi buti na academic na
Yun,
Yung pine-prevent po nila na ilabas ay nailabas na. So what is there para i-prevent? Di po ba?
Hindi, para lang po mapatunayan na tama sila at mapalakas yung kanilang kaso ngayon na sinasampa against
Hindi po
several...
magdidesisyon ng gano'n ng Korte Suprema dahil wala na pong legal basis. Moot and academic na po yung kanilang final.
Kong, the other day we spoke to, the other day, no? The other week, Kong Luistro, about yung green box na nakasil at sabi niya pag-uusapan niyo daw kung anong gagawin dito and kailangan may decision na daw kayo by the last hearing. Ano po ang so far update dito, Congressman?
Bukas pa lamang po ito pag-uusapan sa aming committee. Pero ako po naniniwala, meron po kaming power para ito po buksan dahil ang power na ito nanggaling po sa Saligang Batas. Maliwanag po sa ating Saligang Batas, sinasabi po ng ating Saligang Batas na ang Kongreso ay may kapangyarihan para gumawa ng kanilang sariling rules. At sa Section 7 ng aming rules, kami po ay binibigyan ng mandato na mag-issue ng compulsory processes. At ito nga pong ini-issue namin na subpoena, ito pong laman ng box na to, yung ITR, yung po ay produkto ng subpoena na binibigay po sa aming mandato ng Saligang Batas.
Well, a lot of the members daw ng committee have the same sentiment also with Kong Laila. Ang fear lang daw nila, Congressman, is baka gamitin ito ng panig ni VP Sara as maging technical na naman at maudlot na naman ang pag-transmit ng impeachment complaint sa Senado.
Yun nga po yung nagiging dilemma namin. Kaya for purposes of determination of probable cause, mababaw lang naman po. Kung nakikita naman po namin na may basihan na, baka po pwedeng ipagpaliban ito at siguro sa trial proper na lang sa Senado, doon na lang siguro ito ilabas.
Pero pwede yung kumbaga buksan kahit na hindi ito nabuksan sa Kongreso if ever.
Tama po kayo dyan. Kasi ang sinasabi na naman po namin, hindi yung box kung hindi yung ITR.
Right. Totoo. Now, kung natapos na po kayo dun sa hearings about the confidential funds, yung mga notice of disallowance ng COA, maging yung sa statements po ng bank statements ni VP Sara. Tomorrow po is going to be about the death threats. Tama po ba?
Tama po kayo dyan.
So ano po yung parang pinaka-pag-uusapan natin po doon na kung ano po yung significance nun na batay po dito sa inyong proceedings sa impeachment against the Vice President?
Yung issue po sa death threat ay sinabi na po namin dito yung NBI o National Bureau of Investigation para ilabas po sa amin kung ano po ang nangyari sa kanilang investigasyon. Kung maalala po ninyo, nung nagkaroon po ng death threat ang ating Vice Presidente sa ating Pangulo, ito po ay inimbestigahan ng National Bureau of Investigation. Kaya kami po interesadong malaman kung ano po ang kanilang naging resulta nitong investigasyon.
If I'm not mistaken po kung parang may nabanggit po ang NBI na parang may iniimbestigahan sila, nakakausap na possible na hitman daw po na nakausap ni allegedly ni Vice President Sara Duterte regarding this threat against the President. If that's the case, is the Committee on Justice going to invite that hitman sa proceeding?
Siguro kung bukas po may open yan at mabibigyan kami ng opportunity para ito po ay matanong at kung meron pong mambabatas na mag-raise ng motion, malamang po imbitahan. Pero kung hindi naman po, ang importante lang naman po kasi dito determination ng probable cause, baka hindi na po kailangan.
Yan. So finally, Kong, moving forward, so tomorrow ang last day, no? So when do we expect po magkakaroon ng batuhan about this impeachment complaint?
Well, inaasahan po natin bukas kung hindi na po, wala na pong iba pang mga tatawagin, wala nang i-raise na motion, wala na mga witness or resource person na gustong i-recall, malamang bukas na rin po ang mag-ibotohan namin for purposes of determination ng probable cause.
And base po sa mga naging hearings po sa ninyo, Kong Joel, ano pong numero nakikita po natin na magiging botohan po dito? Are you confident that this going to be kumbaga ma-transmit sa Senado itong impeachment na ito?
Well, yung transmittal sa Senado, hindi pa po natin masasabi yan kasi sa plenaryo po mangyayari yan. But for purposes of determination of probable cause, bukas, tingin ko naman simple majority lamang ang kailangan. Kasi sa plenaryo po, ibang usapan po yun dahil 1/3 vote po ang kakailanganin doon or 105.
Pero wala po kayong mga nakakausap na ibang congressman na kumbaga yung parang magiging boto po nila sa plenaryo? Baka gusto niyo pong i-share sa amin.
Naka-recess po kasi kami ngayon kaya hindi po lahat nandirito. Yung iba po nasa mga kani-kanilang distrito, yung iba naman po nasa bakasyon.
Pwede
kaya hindi pa po natin...
di ba? Ito naman si Kong,
Hintayin na lang natin after tomorrow. Baka invite natin si Kong
Bukas
ulit.
po, kung makikita po natin yung numero at maganda, let's say, makakuha po tayo ng mga mag-participate po. Marami pong mag-participate. Umabot ng mga 50, 60. Medyo makikita ninyo yung preview.
Sige, abangan na lang natin tomorrow yan. Alright.
Kausapin namin kayo ulit kung sa April 30. Binook na kita. Alright, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Manila 3rd District Representative Joel Chua.
Maraming salamat. Mabuhay po kayo.
Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. For the third straight week, oil companies will implement a big-time rollback in diesel and kerosene prices starting today. While gasoline will see a small price increase, here's the report.
The Department of Energy says diesel prices will go down by nearly 13 pesos per liter, while kerosene will be cut by 15 pesos and 71 centavos. Gasoline, however, will increase by 53 centavos a liter. As a result, diesel prices will range up to 107 pesos per liter, gasoline up to 104 pesos, and kerosene up to 147 pesos. In a DOE press conference, Energy Secretary Sharon Garin explained the basis of the price movements.
Yun po yung result ng closing nila ng market. Commodity kasi. So, we get the official closing every day. Ganun po, may sariling presyo si diesel, may sarili ding presyo si kerosene, tsaka si gas.
The DOE also reminded oil companies to comply with pricing rules, saying some firms have already implemented early rollbacks ahead of the schedule.
They're mandated to comply with this. So we have our own procedure with due process. Kung meron kaming mapansin na hindi sumusunod. If there is unjustified na hindi pag-follow po ng advisory ng DOE, then we will have to file cases.
The latest adjustment marks the third straight week of price cuts for diesel and kerosene, following 5 consecutive rounds of sharp increases due to the conflict in the Middle East. Meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump has discussed a new Iranian proposal on ending the war with his top national security aides. The proposal reportedly seeks to delay talks on Iran's nuclear program until after the war and shipping disputes are resolved, a move Washington says is unacceptable. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio accused Iran of buying time, warning any deal must prevent Tehran from moving toward developing a nuclear weapon. Despite setbacks in diplomacy after a planned U.S. visit was scrapped, mediators say back-channel talks continue, while Iran seeks support from regional and global allies.
Let's now check the situation at gasoline stations. We have mobile journalist Francis Rivera on the ground. Francis, balita ko, kerosene, diesel, bumaba, pero ang gasolina, mas.
Yes, Jericho. Good morning, Jericho and Angela. Yes, ano lang naman ang tinaas niya, 0.53 centavos, pero tumbas na rin na parang piso na rin yun. Jericho yung pagtaas doon, pero doon nga sa diesel and kerosene, halos 13 pesos na rin yung binaba. So at ayon doon sa mga nakausap nating mga chopper ng jeepney at nung doon din sa mga UV Express kasi sila yung mga nakakatanggap ng 10 pesos fuel subsidy at ayon nga doon sa kanila from 300 pesos mula nung sumipa or nagkaroon ng mega oil price hike, ngayon nakaka-take home na sila ng 700 to 800 pesos. Talagang may ginhawa hatid itong sunod-sunod na rollback simula nga 3 weeks na at ayon pa sa kanila hiling nga nila na sana magtuloy-tuloy pa at yun pa rin yung panawagan nila na bumalik muli sa dating presyohan ng diesel yung 55 or 50 to 55 pesos kada liter ng diesel ng crudo ang manumbalik yung ganung presyohan dahil doon talaga talagang malaki yung kinikita nila unlike nitong nakaraang buwan na halos wala na silang kitain. So ngayon talagang kahit papaano nakakapagbawi-bawi na raw sila doon sa kanilang pamamasada na buong araw. Jericho, Angela?
Ano ba yung mga, kumbaga, pinaka-reaksyon ng mga drivers dyan? Para sa kanila ba ay okay na itong ibinababa ng presyo ng diesel or gusto pa nila ng mas mababa pa?
Yes, Angela. Gusto talaga nila o ginigit nila na sana bumalik doon sa 50 to 55 pesos kada liter yung presyo ng diesel. Pero sa nakikita nila, okay na rin yung dahan-dahan at tuloy-tuloy na pag-rollback ng presyo ng mga produktong petrolyo. At hiling nga nila na sana magtuloy-tuloy pa at sana wag daw mausog na ang pangamba kasi nila na baka nga sunod-sunod naman ang rollback, baka naman biglaan din yung all price hike ulit o manumbalik yung all price hike kaya sumipa muli yung presyo ng diesel. So yun naman yung pangamba nila. Pero yun nga positibo naman sila na magtutuloy-tuloy itong nararanasan nating rollback 3 weeks na, no? So yun yung pasasalamat na rin nila, lalo na nakakatanggap pa rin sila ng 10 pesos off para doon sa kada litro ng diesel. Angela, Jericho?
All right, thank you for the updates, mobile journalist Francis Rivera. Now, at least 13 areas in the country are expected to experience danger level heat indices today, April 28. Let's talk about that with Pag-asa weather specialist Charmaine Barilla. Good morning, Charmaine. Welcome back.
Yes, magandang umaga din po sa inyo, maging sa lahat ng ating mga tagapakinig. Narito ang ulat sa lagay ng panahon. Sa kasalukuyan, patuloy pa rin yung epekto ng easterlies dito sa buong bansa. Kaya asahan natin ngayong araw, merong kaulapan na magaganap at makalat-kalat mga pagulan, pagkilat at pagkulog sa may bahagi ng Lanao del Norte, Lanao del Sur, Maguindanao del Norte, Maguindanao del Sur, Zamboanga del Sur at Misamis Occidental. Dito sa Metro Manila at nalalabing bahagi ng ating bansa ay iiral pa rin yung mainit at malinsangan ng panahon at tsansa ng mga pulupulo at mga panandaling mga pagulan, pagkilat at pagkulog sa hapon. Sa magiging kalagayan ng ating karagatan ay wala tayong nakataas na gale warning. Kaya malayang maglalayag lahat ng sasakyang pandagat. At pinakamataas nga na heat index ngayong araw ay aasahan dito sa may Sangli Point, Cavite na kung saan aabot up until 44 degrees Celsius. Dito naman sa Metro Manila, papalo ang ating heat index hanggang 42 degrees Celsius. Nasa danger level ito kaya iba yung pag-iingat sa ating mga kababayan dito ngayong araw. At yan ang latest mula dito sa Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. Charmaine Barilla, nag-uulat.
Charmaine, itong mga peak danger level indexes, anong oras ito?
Yes, po sa nakikita po natin, usually nagre-range po yan sa pagitan ng alas 10 ng umaga hanggang alas 4 ng hapon. So ito po yung time frame kung saan pinakadelikado yung init na mararanasan natin sa labas.
Ito ba ay magtutuloy-tuloy until the end of this month, itong ganitong kainit na panahon, Charmaine?
Yes po, no, posible at posible pa pong mas tumaas yan dahil hindi pa po natin nararanasan yung pinaka-peak po ng ating heat index. Usually po kasi nagpipeak po ang ating heat index sa may bandang second week ng May.
Alright, Charmaine, tapos para mapaalala lang sa public natin, no, usually ganitong temperature, ano ang kailangan gawin para umiwas sa heat stroke?
So sa ngayon po na-mention po natin no, na yung ganitong kataas na temperatura or heat index ay maaaring magdulot na nga ng heat cramps at heat stroke. So ulitin po natin yung mga pangunahing pag-iingat na kailangan gawin. Unang-una, sa ating pananamit po, magsuot po tayo ng mga cotton materials para makahinga ng maluwag yung ating katawan at hindi tayo mag-stuck yung pawis sa ating katawan. Next naman po ay kapag lalabas po tayo, especially yung na-mention natin ng mga oras kanina, kung maaari po magdala tayo ng pananggalang sa init kagaya nga ng payong at sombrero. At kung lalabas po ay magdala palagi ng tubig para po maiwasan natin yung dehydration. At kung maaari magstay po tayo sa mga well-ventilated na lugar.
Charmaine, itong mga heat index na sinasabi natin, do we expect this to continue consistently over the next few days?
Yes po sir, no? Kasi as I mentioned, ay hindi pa po talaga natin nararanasan yung pinakamataas na heat index so far. Ay umabot na po na last month yung ating heat index, pinakamataas sa may Virac na kung saan umabot ng 47 degrees Celsius heat index. So ina-expect natin na tataas pa po dyan yung marirecord po natin sa ibang bahagi pa ng ating bansa.
Oo, pero ito pong sunod-sunod na heat indices na to, meron po bang pagtaya na maaring magkaroon ng heat wave sa atin?
Sa ngayon po yung heat wave ay hindi po natin nararanasan dito dahil dapat po ay consistent po na mas mataas ng 5 degrees Celsius as compared sa normal yung nararanasan po natin, which is hindi naman po natin nakikita na nagsusustain kasi kung mapapansin po natin ng mga nakarang araw medyo bumaba yung ating naranasan na heat index. Sa ngayon bahagyan tataas pero nakikita natin hanggang bukas lang yan and then by April 29 ay muli yan bababa pero hindi naman yung super baba. So hindi po natin masasabi na heat wave pa itong nararanasan natin dahil hindi siya consistent na mainit po.
And lastly po, Ms. Charmaine, meron ba tayong mga asahan na mga pag-ulan sa iba't ibang parte po ng ating bansa?
Yes po, no. So sa ngayong araw po, pinakamataas yung chance ng mga pag-ulan sa may kandurang bahagi ng Mindanao, maging sa hilagang bahagi nito dahil sa patuloy pa rin na epekto po ng easterlies. And sa nalabing bahagi po ng ating bansa, meron pa rin naman po tayong mga chances ng mga panandali ang mga pag-ulan, pagkidlat at pagkulog po. So yun ang nakikita po natin sa ngayon.
Alright, thank you for that. Pag-asa weather specialist Charmaine Barilla. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Several local government units in Metro Manila are urging residents to wear face masks again as air quality deteriorates following the fire at the Navotas Sanitary Landfill. The Environmental Management Bureau NCR said smog from the fire has affected Caloocan, Malabon, Valenzuela, Pasay, and other parts of the capital region. Air monitoring showed conditions ranging from moderate to heavy unhealthy. Some areas in Valenzuela and Manila reached levels hazardous for sensitive groups. The DNR said particulate matter from the smoke includes dust, vapors, and other pollutants that can come from vehicles, industry, and open burning. Authorities have advised children, the elderly, and those with respiratory conditions to limit outdoor exposure.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon is conducting a follow-up inspection of the Navotas Sanitary Landfill, which has been burning for 3 weeks. Now let's bring in our mobile journalist, Arles de Los Santos, for the details. Arles, go ahead.
Angela at Diego, ngayong araw nga ay bumisita muli sila DTPWH Secretary Vince Dizon sa Navotas Sanitary Landfill para inspeksyonin kung ano na nga ba yung accomplishment nito at yung mga operasyon nang hindi nga bababa sa 50 mga heavy equipment na ginagamit para mas mabilis na maapula yung sunog na 3 linggo na mula nang magsimula nga. Pero ayon sa lokal na pamahalaan, Angela at Diego, ng Navotas, bumaba na daw o lumiit na nga yung bahagi ng landfill na nagkaroon ng sunog. Pero pagpunta natin doon kanina, nakita pa rin natin na meron pa rin talagang mga bahagi na nakararanas ng sunog. At naamoy natin talagang mabaho pa din yan, masakit sa amoy, at actually kahit dito sa papawirin ng Navotas, Malabon, Bulacan at Valenzuela, talagang matatanaw mo yung usok na nanggagaling doon maitim at ang masakit sa ilong kapag nalanghap. Pero mas mabilis yung nagiging operasyon na daw na pagtabo ng lupa doon sa mga apektadong nasunog na bahagi ng sanitary landfill dahil nagagamit na nga yung kalye o yung kalsada na pwede nang madaanan ng mga heavy equipment papasok doon sa landfill. Angela at Diego.
Arles, ano ba timeline nila dyan na para maging under control yung nangyayari?
Actually, Diego, ayon naman sa LGU ng Navotas, napuksan na nila or natabunan na nila mismo yung ignition point ng methane combustion na pinagmulan nitong sunog na ito. Pero sa ngayon, ay wala pa rin naibibigay na tukoy na timeline kung kailan talaga maapula yung sunog. Kasi kasama yan sa mga tinanong natin kanina dahil, Diego, dito kung nasan tayo ngayon sa Ubando, Bulacan, ay nasa 170 families o 480 na mga pamilya mula sa Ubando ang ngayon ay sumisilong dito sa National High School dahil nga yung kanilang mga bahay ay kasama doon sa mga apektado, malapit doon sa landfill at kasama talaga sila sa mga pinaka-apektadong residente at sektor doon sa nangyayaring usok. Kaya layon ng Navotas LGU at ng Ubando LGU na kung mas mabilis na maapula ito ay mas malaki na rin yung maitutulong nito kasi may pangamba, Diego, yung lokal na pamahalaan ng Ubando na kung magpapatuloy at mas tatagal pa yung sunog at yung usok na hinahangin nga papunta sa kanilang mga lokal na pamahalaan, baka raw hindi na raw kayanin ng kanilang mga budget o hindi na ito sumapat para masuportahan nga yung mga evacuees na nandito. Pero handa naman daw tumulong ang national na pamahalaan para masigurado nga yung kapakanan ng ating mga kapatid na ngayon ay nasa evacuation center. At actually, Diego, hindi lamang ito tungkol doon sa pondo. Kung may sapat pa nga ba, ang pangamba rin nila ay yung kabuhayan at ang kalusugan ng kanilang mga nasasakupan. Sa huling tala ng DOH sa kanilang check-up, Diego, ay nasa 65 na raw ang kanilang nabisto na may upper respiratory tract infection, 56 ang may chemical pneumonitis, 17 ang may dry eyes, at 21 ang may asthma. Kaya ngayon kung makikita ninyo, Diego, dito sa aking likuran, ay nandito yung ilan sa ating mga kapatid at otoridad mula sa Health Department para nga masigurado na tuloy-tuloy na nababantayan yung kalusugan ng ating mga kapatid. At nung tinanong natin, yung ilang evacuees dito ay araw-araw naman daw may check-up dito sa evacuation center.
Yeah, Arles, I understand yung challenges na kinakaharap ng Bureau of Fire Protection para nga maapula yung sunog na ito dahil hindi po pwedeng basa-basa na lang lunurin daw sa tubig itong landfill na to because this is layers of basura. No, baka gumuho naman ito. So talagang may mga strategiya sila. And understand, meron na daw pumunta dyan na from JICA. Japanese International Cooperative Agency, tama ba yun? Cooperation Agency, para tumulong. So anong klaseng tulong yung ibibigay nila?
Angela, at least mula sa Japanese Embassy at doon sa JICA at doon sa tinatawag nilang Japan Disaster Relief, yung JDR na tinatawag, magbibigay sila nga ng technical relief, yung mga estratehiya kung paano mas mabilis na maapula yung sunog, ano yung mas mabilis na paraan para matampakan agad ng mga lupa, buhangin at putik yung mga apektadong bahagi ng landfill nang sa gayon nga ay hindi na kumalat yung sunog. At kanina, Angela at Diego, doon mismo sa pagbisita ni DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon ay kasama mismo natin sa mga nakapanayam si Ambassador to the Philippines na si Enzo Yamazaki, na ayon nga sa kanya, talagang nais nilang siguraduhin na alalayan yung mga kapatid natin dito at yung mga kababayan din nating Filipino na apektado ng malawakang sunog. At Angela, to be exact lang, ayon sa Navotas LGU, yung haba nga, or yung taas ng landfill, yung mga basura na naipon na doon sa Navotas Sanitary Landfill, at least on the latest count, nung pagpasok natin doon simula't simula, 16 meters yung taas nito at malaking bahagi nun na sunog nga, bunsod ng methane combustion.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong oras, mobile journalist Arles de los Santos.
Senate President Pro Tempore Panfilo Lacson says some retired military officers are attempting to gain the support of active uniformed personnel for a so-called military-backed people power movement. Lacson said the move was allegedly orchestrated by retired armed forces officers, but believes it is unlikely to succeed as long as the armed forces of the Philippines remains professional and disciplined. The AFP has yet to comment on the claim, while Malacanang says it is unfazed over the matter.
Matagal na pong balita yan. Matagal na nilang gustong magsagawa ng destabilization laban sa ating Pangulo. Hindi na po yan bago. Hindi, unang-una po, kung ito po ay mapapatunayan dahil si Senator Lacson naman ay hindi natin matatawaran kapag nagsalita ito. Ito'y may resibo. So muli, ang mga investigating bodies natin, hindi na po kayo kailangang utusan. Gawin nyo na pong mag-imbestiga.
It's all systems go for the MPTC Tour of Luzon 2026, which officially starts on Wednesday, April 29. The 14-stage cycling event will bring together top local riders and international teams for a grueling race across northern Luzon. Competitors will start in Calatagan, Batangas, and will push their limits all the way to Baguio City. The race runs from April 29 to May 13.
All right, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid. We are one news.
All sides, all the time.